and painting pictures for him and her. We had to do that. Just like all the other interest groups, the banks and the truckers and the farmers and the steel workers. Everybody talks to the policymakers, and so we did that. And when we did that, we told them, here's who's eligible. Here's who's eligible. We wanted something objective, because we wanted no mess. We know politicians and bureaucrats can wiggle. First generation and low income, and we defined it. Then you can be white, black, brown, or yellow, red, and then you can qualify. But you're going to be first generation and low income first. So we know who's getting the money. We know who's getting the service. It's not some black kid who is rich. Or red kid who is rich. It is a yellow kid who's poor. Poor. And we know he's poor. Not because his mama says it, because the objective record shows it. That's one. And two, we define the functions. And three, we said to the bureaucrats in Washington, you're not going to run this discretionary program the way you run it from, say, 1968 when somebody invented TRIO until 1981. Just kind of throw the money out there, give it to who you like. Oh, that's my alma mater. Oh, I was born in Montana. Gee, Harlem is a wonderful place. We're going to grade those applications, and wherever the numbers fall, those are the people who are going to get the money, and you ain't going to skip over nobody to get to nobody else. See, the difference between TRIO and Gear Up, for example, is this, in terms of the money. In Gear Up, they bring in readers, they evaluate the applications, blah, 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 and then the opinions and recommendations of the reader are, in quote, advisory. Advisory. Which means that the people who paid your airfare and gave you a stipend and watched over you for a week as you sit in a motel in Washington, D.C. can change your numbers if they choose to, because your recommendation is advisory. And they don't go to jail. They're just being adults, biased. But in the case of TRIO, you will fund, you will take those recommendations seriously, you will incorporate them, and that's it. It's objective. You can't change them. What the reader says is not advisory. It's combined with the prior experience scores. Yes, the department can do some hanky-panky there, and we caught them doing some hanky-panky, you just recall, back in 2006 with the talent search thing. It cost us $100,000. So when Evelyn says we need unrestricted revenue, she ain't kidding you. Took us $100,000 in lawyers' fees to find that out, because we had to pay lawyers to implement the Freedom of Information Act because the bureaucrats wouldn't give it up. So the lawyers had to go in there and dig it out and beat them with legal documents and all the rest of it. That's the way it works, folks. This ain't no nursery rhyme. This is the real world, okay? So, anyway, that's what we did. Where are we now? Well, we're not in the best place, but we're still following the advice of a great labor leader by the name of A. Philip Randolph. And A. Philip Randolph told us, there are no free seats in the table of life. There are no free seats. You have to take it, you have to hold it, and you can't take it, you can't hold it unless you're organized. People out here in West Stop understand those principles. They understand them in New England, they understand them in the Caribbean, they understand them in the Midwest, they understand them in New York and New Jersey. They understand those principles. You have to be organized. So that's the good news. The bad news is that we've lost close to 100,000 students since 2005. And maybe a little more than that. I'm just being, maybe I'm in a conservative mood. I don't know. If we're unsuccessful and getting rid of sequester, we're going to lose 50,000 students.